Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel, friends. A very, very special day today because today we are watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 29, Operation Annihilate, the season finale of Season 1. I can't believe that we've made it all the way through the first season of the original series, some of the very best television I've ever seen, and my love and appreciation for the original series has grown exponentially. These characters are fantastic. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but just at the conclusion of this, the first season, there are some memorable milestones, and I am absolutely privileged and so proud to have been able to watch this and share it with all of you. And I can't wait for more. We have 2 more seasons. Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. But we can't overlook Operation Annihilate, the season finale of Season 1. Let's get into it, my friends. But before we do that, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and you'll be alerted next time we go live with the original series, Season 2, or The Expanse, or any of our other sci-fi offerings. And of course, if you'd like any of those offerings early or in their full-length format, the link to the Patreon is in the description. But my friends, all that is then, and this is now. And now it's time for the season finale of Season 1 of the original series, Episode 29, Operation Annihilate. Prepare to engage maximum warp reaction. And for the last time in Season 1, away we go. A beauty, is she not? Sulu at the helm, thank God. Crosstalk. God, I love it. Never let that go away.
Evaluation, Mr. Spock.
As I speculated, Captain, the overall pattern of mass insanity destroying civilizations follows an almost straight line through this section of the galaxy.
Mass insanity?
The last was Ingraham B. 2 years ago.
And next in line, Deneva.
There is no medical or scientific cause for what happened on those planets, Jim.
Weird lighting.
We're picking up a ship on our sensors, heading directly into the Denovan sun. He'll burn up.
Plot an interception course, Mr. Sulu. Warp factor 8. Lieutenant Uhura, try to contact that ship.
Warp 8? We're not effing around.
Ship is a one-man vessel of Denovan configuration, Captain. He does not seem to be out of control. His course is straight for the sun.
It's deliberate.
Tractor beam.
Out of range, sir.
He eyeballed it. Scotty eyeballed that shit. Out of range.
Denovan ship. This is the USS Enterprise. Can you reverse your course? Acknowledge.
No, this is intentional.
Denovan ship. Reverse your course.
This reminds me, I just watched Sunshine over on Patreon. It was a pretty good sci-fi movie.
Outer hull temperature now 480 degrees and rising.
Do deflector shields or screens take out the radiation?
Hull temperature 1,000 degrees and rising. Sun's gravimetric pull increasing.
Well, there's no way that he's too far ahead. That ship's gone.
It's finally gone. I'm free.
Burned up.
Turn around, turn around. The heat. It sounds like whoever was piloting that ship was cured. It's free. I'm finally free. That sounds like if he was suffering from something, maybe the heat of the sun or the radiation did it.
All clear, Captain. Hull temperature falling. Gravimetric pull approaching tolerance level.
Very well. Reduce the subwarp speed.
Great crosstalk. They're relaying environmental conditions. It's so cool.
Jim, your brother Sam, his family, aren't they stationed on this planet?
Oh, shit. Jim's going to tell us about the final frontier. We're in the... Wow, I did not see that coming. I do know, I've watched a handful of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and I know his brother is featured in there. He's the dude with the mustache, science officer. Oh my God, we get to see Sam. And it's George, right? George Sam Cook isn't... Or Sam Cook. I was listening to Sam Cook, but... it's George, right? George Sam Kirk, because he only calls his brother Sam, I think. I might be misremembering that. Wow. Okay, I'm super psyched. Who did they get to play Sam Kirk? This is super duper cool. Very exciting. That's interesting. It's Operation Two Dashes and Annihilate. In the title, it's Operation Colon Annihilate.
That planet, colonized over a century ago, is one of the most beautiful in the galaxy.
Really?
They make regular trips from here, carrying supplies to the asteroid belt for the miners, and
The Belters?
I've made the run a couple of times myself as a
Beltaloda.
advisor.
No Federation contacts for over a year.
Captain,
None for a year. Well, what about Sam, though? Isn't he?
please hurry. Help us.
Oh, no.
Each time they'll know. Please, please
O'Reilly.
help us.
This is Jim on the Enterprise. Repeat your message.
Lost it.
Contact broken, sir.
Reestablish.
Being jammed, I bet.
I'm afraid that's impossible at the moment, Captain. They stop broadcasting immediately. They do not acknowledge my contact signal.
Keep trying to raise them.
Yes, sir.
It's not Uhura's fault. I mean, I understand emotions are charged here, but...
You were right a while back. My brother Sam lives on Denver. He's a research biologist. That woman
His wife?
sounded like his wife, O'Reilly.
O'Reilly. Now, either there's somebody that, like, did all this, or she's suffering from the madness.
Sensoas report the expected number of humans on the planet's surface. However, they are strangely quiet. Very little activity.
Huh.
I'll want a complete transcript of everything that happens down there.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Bringing a yeoman along. I like the idea of bringing a yeoman along for, like historical purposes. They record everything. Ooh, look at this. Wonder where this is. I'll have to ask Q. Look at this. Almost looks like a museum.
There are almost 1 million inhabitants of Denver. There's more than 100,000 in this city alone.
Nobody. Kill him!
Stand by to fire. Fire!
Your glass rods will do nothing against phasers.
Their attitude was inconsistent with their actions.
To say the least.
There's something wrong, Jim.
No shit.
Even in their unconscious state, they're being violently stimulated.
Is it like anxiety? Not anxiety, like adrenaline, or just some type of like heightened emotional state, or brainwave, or...
Please, keep them away!
Oh, God. What in the hell is going on?
You're safe now.
Is this your brother, Jim?
Where's Sam? Is he dead?
Sam.
Oh my God, is that his nephew?
It is my brother. Was my brother.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, Jim. The boy is unconscious, but he's still alive.
Oh, thank God.
Peter.
Peter.
I'd better get the boy and the mother back to the ship, Jim. I can't do much for them down here.
Oh, good acting, DeForest, good acting. He's always so solid. Jesus, his brother.
I understand how you know.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Spock.
That's the best he can give you, Jim, and that's a lot for Spock.
Notice the ventilator, Captain. Apparently, they were trying to keep something outside from getting in. Obviously, they were not entirely successful.
That doesn't make sense. There are no harmful life forms reported.
Gas?
Pick up anything that didn't belong here.
That is correct. I am at a loss to understand it.
Wow, I'm incredibly invested in this already.
Take charge of the landing party, Mr. Spock. I want some answers to all this.
Gotta make sure there's not some type of contamination here. Because if there is, you just brought it to the Enterprise.
But your sister-in-law seems to have a high tolerance. The tranquilizer hasn't affected her much.
Really?
Did you talk?
Yes.
Is that Chapel? I haven't seen her in forever.
Jim?
I like this shot.
You've got to help us.
Give us something, yeah.
You are here. It is you, Jim.
She must have been hallucinating.
You have to tell us what happened, Aurelia. To you and the others.
It's everyone like this, I bet.
Visitors brought them in their vessel from a planet. Ingram B.
Ingram B.
It's important that you tell us what kind of things.
Not their fault.
Okay, so the ship was compelled to bring... So like some type of plague of madness? It is Chapel. She's gonna die. And none of this is helping.
Answers questions. Any questions. It's as if she's fighting to get the answers out.
It's like Van Gelder.
They need us to be their arms and legs.
Like a microscopic organism?
Don't let them go any further!
Oh no. Oh my God. Jesus, Peter's alone now. So's Jim. I mean, they've got each other, but... Oh my God, the stakes in this one.
My brother's son.
I'll do everything I can, Jim, to save him.
You can count. That's a fact. Bones will do everything in his power. This is my favorite Bones sequence so far. I'm really, really liking the way DeForest Kelly's playing that.
All right. Let's go find out what it is.
I don't worry that there's something...
And we already know it will kill.
Maybe one person stay on stun? My guess is that this is some type of like parasitic organism that's inhabiting the bodies and needs the bodies to build ships for it to spread. And if so, incredibly cool species. Look at this shit.
Fuck!
Whoa, light him up! It's resistant, or not. Never mind. Spock, get on this thing. It looks like a great big bacteria.
It does not even register on my tricorder.
Captain, doesn't even look real.
It's not life as we know or understand it.
And it can bear up under full phaser power.
That ain't great. Oh no. Get it off of him!
Fuck!
Get it off of him!
Fuck, are you all right?
That's some fucking great acting right there, because in that exchange, you could hear Bill Shatner adding the desperation into Kirk that we never hear because he just lost Sam. There's no way he can afford to lose Spock. Great acting right there.
Ship surgeon Dr. McCoy is examining a strange puncture wound left by one of the creatures on Mr. Spock's back.
I mean, I hate to say it, but if there's anybody that can maybe live through this, it's Spock because of his physiology.
Doctor, the readings have never looked like that before, not even on Mr. Spock.
Wow, this is a great episode. This is a really good episode.
Doctor, that's not all you're going to do.
Miss Chapel.
Doctor, there is more of it in him entwined all through his body.
Miss Chapel, if you cannot assist me as required, call another nurse in here.
So she's saying there's still contamination. Wonton soup?
Pieces of some form of living tissue. I removed one from Spock's spinal cord, the other from your sister-in-law's body. They're both the same.
Oh, God.
Besides, the removal of the tissue wouldn't stop the pain anyhow, as far as I can tell.
The heat. The sun.
His body's full of these tentacles, entwining and growing all about his nervous system.
Oh, my God. That quick.
Evidently, when the creature attacks, it leaves a stinger much like a bee or a wasp, leaving one of these in the victim's body.
Recommendations?
I'm sorry, Jim. The lab, the science departments. We're all stumped.
Keep working, guys. I mean, you're the best of the best. I'm telling you, it's that radiation from the sun or heat. Something of that nature. Oh, shit.
No, I won't.
Oh, Nimoy's gonna kill this, isn't he? Nimoy's gonna kill this.
Let's take ship up.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's too strong. Oh, he's going to try to take him out.
Down. I must.
Oh my God, I love this episode. Wow. Holy shit, is this good. I mean, you talk about some high stakes.
The K3 indicator registers the level of pain. Now watch it as I turn it on.
Oh my God.
I've never seen anything like it. No wonder the poor devils go mad.
They go mad by pain. Jesus, how awful would that be?
Dr. McCoy.
He's still there. He's still
Captain.
lucid.
I'm a Vulcan doctor. Pain is a thing of the mind. The mind can be controlled.
You can't.
The creature, with all of its thousands of parts, even now, is pressuring me.
To do what?
It wants this ship. But I'm resisting.
Can he control it the way he says, Bones?
Who knows, Jim?
Right?
I know the amount of pain the creature can inflict upon him. But whether he can control it hour to hour...
Jeez, oh Pete.
Let me help.
Oh, he's just the best. Spock is just the best.
But we can't take any chances.
Jim can't. He cannot lose you.
Aren't you forgetting something? There are over 1 million colonists on that planet down there. Just as much your responsibility.
We need to figure out a cure first. There's nothing, we can't bring 1 million of them up here, Bones. I appreciate Bones' character very much. It's just sometimes those little, like, aside arguments, that doesn't help. I guess that's why Bones isn't in command.
I'm a Vulcan.
Oh, look at this.
There is no pain.
Oh, my God. And it's through the roof. This isn't good.
Mr. Spock, I thought you were still confined to sick bay.
I was.
Here now, where do you think you're going?
Scotty, be careful.
I have an errand on the planet's surface. You will beam me down to the same coordinates as before.
Not likely, Mr. Spock.
Not likely.
Mr. Scott.
Aye, sir. And I'm sorry I have to disobey it.
Scotty.
Freeze right there, Mr. Spock. Or I'll put you to sleep for sure.
Scotty said, "This is not my first rodeo. We can go again, only this time I've got my Type 1. Love the music, too.
Spock, I gave you an order to stay in the sick bay.
Until the pain was gone, Captain. It has been discontinued.
I don't believe that.
One of the creatures will have to be captured and analyzed, Captain. We did not have a clear opportunity to do so earlier when I was attacked. Since my nervous system is already affected, as you pointed out, Doctor, I don't believe they could do much more to me.
But he's right. If he's on the up and up, he's right.
The fact that I am here proves that I do not belong in bed.
Or are you lying? Which is against what you could do anyway.
Beam him down. Stay in constant touch with us. Give him your phaser. He'll need that, too.
He just turns it on everybody. Keep a transporter lock on him. Okay, question for all of my Trek fans out there. If we were in the era of biofilters, would transporting Spock to the surface and or back eliminate the creature inside him, like the parasite? I would think so, but I don't know that. I vaguely know what a biofilter is, just that it takes out contaminants.
That man is sick. And don't give me any damnable logic about him being the only man for the job.
I don't have to, Bones. We both know he is.
Yep. Come on, Leonard. I mean, we know that... you know what I do like about that, though, is Bones could easily have been dismissive of Spock's danger because of their past kind of conflicts, but whenever it comes time to protect Spock, Bones is first in line. Is it wrong that I want to see Spock, like, tear loose? Like, Spock full contact fighting? I need to see, like, Spock v 12 people. God, Nimoy. Y'all told me that he was nominated for an Emmy all 3 seasons, right? That is so hard to do, and that is so cool. And very, very deserving. He's absolutely amazing. Those things are gross, and I like them. It's a cool kind of like a, almost like, you know, like single-celled organism, you know, kind of cancer cell-y, parasitic type stuff. It's cool. It loses its sticky. Just be careful. They start flying off of there like frisbees. They're like, what are those things called? Skates? Is that what it is? A skate, like an aquatic creature? I always think of them like sort of like a stingray. think they're called skates, right? Sort of reminds me of that.
Your medical skill and curiosity are quite admirable, but I assure you I'm all right.
He's going to
check. You may be controlling the pain, Mr. Spock.
You're not cured.
But you're far from all right.
Unimportant at the moment, Doctor.
Amazing force of will.
A one-cell creature resembling more than anything else a huge individual brain cell.
Ooh, wow, brain cell.
This may be one cell in a larger organism, an incredibly huge organism.
From a place where our physical laws do not apply. We may therefore find it difficult to destroy, Captain.
But not impossible, Mr. Spock.
That is crazy.
The Denovan that flew into the sun cried out that he was free, that he had won. That's the angle to work on, gentlemen.
I mean, radiation, right? Solar radiation, see if that does anything. Heat. It's an eyebrow off. It would have been cool as soon as they left if he had like slumped a little bit, like he had been holding himself like...
I'm sorry, Captain. I've tried everything I can.
I can't make this thing taste good.
Which happens to be my point. The thing won't die. Even at temperatures and radiation, which would burn Spock and your nephew to ashes.
I can't accept that, Bones.
He's trying, Jim.
You've got 14 science labs aboard.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Equipment and computers in the galaxy.
Captain.
They've never seen this. It's new science.
I cannot let it spread beyond this colony, even if it means destroying 1 million people down there.
Dear God. You're gonna probably need to run that up the flagpole, Jim.
I regret I see no other choice for you, Captain. We already know this thing has destroyed 3 civilizations. Perhaps more.
Probably more.
I will accept neither of those alternatives, gentlemen. I cannot let this thing expand beyond this planet. Nor do I intend to kill 1 million or more people to stop it. I want another answer.
It's going in a straight line. Maybe see what it's trying to get to.
I'm putting you gentlemen on the hot seat with me. I want that third alternative.
Damn.
I do not make this request lightly. I do not know how much longer I can hold out against the pain.
Oh, my God.
Request denied. There must be another answer.
Boy.
Something in the sun killed that thing before the Denovan died.
Analyze the sun. What's it got?
What other qualities or properties does the sun have?
The gravitational pull?
It occupies space. It has mass, therefore gravity.
They said they had that gravitational pull.
It's bright. It radiates a blinding light if you're...
Light.
But they weren't simply hiding. Suppose they're sensitive to light. Light like in a sun, close up.
Huh.
A string of satellites around the planet with burning trimagnesite and trivium.
Trivium? We heard about that. Wasn't Spock a trivium merchant in Errand of Mercy? I think it was trivium.
Your figures are, of course, accurate.
Of course.
Come on. We still asking that question? It's like Oppenheimer. It's like 10 feet tall. We were wrong. We were wrong. Ooh.
You can do it. It worked in a lab. With the creature exposed to
It's a
everything
start,
we can give
Jim. It's a start. It's a start.
To put someone who's infected under that light.
It has to be Spock.
You'll need a host for the next step in the test.
No, he's going to volunteer.
Do you know what 1 million candlelight per square inch can do to your optic nerves?
There's no other way, Bones. We have to duplicate the brilliance that existed at the moment the Denovan declared himself free.
It'll blind Spock.
I'll rig up a protective pair of goggles.
There'll be none on the planet's surface, Doctor.
I agree completely.
You're going to blind 1 million people? I mean, technically, if you're trying to mimic the conditions, Spock should really kind of cover his eyes with his arm or something. I don't know what that would do, but people would, reflexively kind of do that, though. Not going to just sit there and take it. They're going to curl up in balls. They're going to... God, he's still fighting it.
Mr. Spock's the best first officer in the fleet.
No shit. Bones protected him. Bones is just a contrarian, and I have to accept that. He's always going to give the opposite, the devil's advocate.
Spock, are you all right?
The creature within me is gone. I am free of it. and the pain.
Yay! Oh, and he can't see.
I'm also quite blind.
Oh my
An
God.
equitable trade, Doctor. Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is a fantastic episode.
You're telling me that Spock need not have been blinded?
I didn't need to throw the blinding white light at all, Jim.
Oh my God.
Spock,
Doctor, it was my selection as well. It is done.
Bones.
He's... Jim, come on.
Take care of him.
Bones is going to be torn up about this. Are you kidding?
Completing the seeding orbit, Captain. 210 ultraviolet satellites now in position. 72 miles altitude, permanent orbit about the planet.
Nice. I'm definitely going to need to see the original effects for this because I'm actually not a big fan of what I just saw. That was a good effect right there. Oh, we get to see it again. Do we get the little wisp as the... I can't believe Sam died. That is crazy.
Bones.
Is there anything?
It wasn't your fault.
No.
Bones. Bones.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're all friends. You're all buddies. I mean... That beauty.
You can see.
The blindness was temporary, Jim. There's something about his optical nerves which aren't the same as a human's.
The brightness of the Vulcan sun has caused the development of an inner eyelid. Totally instinctive, Doctor. We tend to ignore it, as you ignore your own appendix.
That's lucky.
Regaining eyesight would be an emotional experience for most. You, I presume, felt nothing?
Quite the contrary, Captain. I had a very strong reaction. My first sight was the face of Dr. McCoy bending over me.
Oh, no.
It is a pity brief blindness did not increase your appreciation for beauty, Mr. Spock.
If you gentlemen are finished, would you mind laying in a course for Starbase 10, Mr. Spock?
My pleasure, Captain.
I said, please don't tell Spock that I said he was the best first officer in the fleet.
He heard that.
Why, thank you, Dr. McCoy.
You've been so concerned about his Vulcan eyes, Doctor. You forgot about his Vulcan ears.
Oh, I love that episode. Really good one. What a surprising episode. All right, my friends, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, the season 1 finale, episode 29, Operation Annihilate. And the only thing left to do is to talk about it. All right, my friends. Wow, what a great season finale for season 1. And again, it's shocking, you know, by this point, I've done a lot of research for Q&A that usually leads to not necessarily spoilers, but if I'm looking up a specific episode, they'll reference another episode that maybe a director has done in the future. You know, they'll say something, you know, like if Joseph Pevney, I get a list of all, like from Arena, they also talked about, you know, Return of the Archons and other things that he had done. So I was kind of mildly spoiled for, like, you know, certain little things like that. And I try to avoid them, but, you know, it just happens. With this one, I had heard nothing about Operation Annihilate. I didn't hear, you know, whether it was on a top 10 list or anything like that. And I'm going to tell you what, this was a really, really well done episode. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was incredibly strong. You know, it's a powerful story with an initial, and I mean, I don't know if we've had higher stakes initially gifted to us with like the death of Sam Kirk, the death of his sister-in-law, you know, the possibility of losing his nephew Peter and Spock, then Spock being blind. I mean, there's a lot of like, not necessarily consequences for the actions of the Enterprise, but just like really, really high stakes that were kind of brought about just by their arrival there. I mean, it was really cool, and it spoke of one thing that we didn't get though was like the name of the race, which I don't know how the hell they could figure that out. You know, I'm assuming it's a race, or the single brain cells is one huge creature. We didn't get a name for it, which is really cool. But, you know, I mean, this was a really, really cool story, though. Localized action. We had. I would really like to know where they filmed this. I'm guessing like a museum campus or a college campus of some kind. In many ways, it looked like the Getty in Los Angeles, but I don't think that was it. Um, wow, just really, really cool stuff. I mean, a couple of things that I really liked. We got a really interesting Scotty scene where it's Scotty v Spock, but again, it was the two different people standing. Spock had an idea that he had to go down there, and at that point, we as the audience, we weren't sure if Spock was compromised. And this was whatever the creature inside him was that was kind of controlling the action, and Scotty. I mean, this is the second time, at least, that we've seen Scotty completely disobey a direct order from a superior because he knew that it was. And again, he didn't disobey a direct order from Spock. That was superseded by Kirk's order, obviously. But he was able to Spock's face, deny him, this type of normally what he would just kind of default to saying yes. But again, I really like Scotty's got a huge spine to be pleasant about that instead of saying something else. But wow, I was really, really dug that scene. The revelation that Sam Kirk, I thought we'd meet him and who he was and get a chance to have like a nope. I mean, not even a word exchange with Jim. He arrives and is dead. That's a huge shock for me. And I'm sure anybody that watched it, thinking, oh my gosh, we get a chance to meet Captain Kirk's brother. He's going to be cool. Or what's he like? Is he different than, Nope. I mean, dead, on the floor, dead. No last words, nothing. Crazy. What an interesting way to do that. The anticipation of meeting Kirk's brother just to be like, completely squashed when you see that he's passed. Very, very compelling storytelling in that it's not traditional. We have this kind of like, oh, and then, oh my God. Really love the way that they did that. And I think that's the selling point of this episode. Do we have great performances? Absolutely. I think Leonard Nimoy did a fantastic job. This may have been my favorite DeForest Kelley, though. Really good acting. DeForest Kelley did a hell of a good job in City on the Edge of Forever, though. So we have had a great string of Bones episodes here to end season 1. Really strong stuff. And we're starting to see, I still am hard on Bones, during some of these exchanges, because the way that he goes about himself is kind of contradictory to the way I look at things. And so I get irritated with Bones, but he's a fantastic character. And I always have to keep in my mind, he's a contrarian. He's the type of person that when you come up with a plan that is almost foolproof, Bones is the person that will find that 1% that could go wrong and mention it. And, or you're in the middle of a high stress, you have one really defined problem and several smaller ones, and you think you've got a lock on the defined main problem, and he'll remind you of the other problems that you have. Well, it's great that you're fixing that one, but there's 4 other ones we need to do. And again, it's a contrarian nature of Bones. And I have to understand that that's his character. That's what he does. That's, that constant questioning is inherent in Bones's character. And, I like the way that they have kind of done that the last 2 episodes, as opposed to the way they did it earlier, where it came across more as argumentative and not, like really he's trying to help by pointing these things out. And he always apologizes afterwards because it's almost like he understands that he was really kind of being a nuisance before. But I love Bones. Bones is great. Another great scene that we had was when Kirk was all spun up about, understandably so, very spun up about getting down there to the planet and why the things were the way they were. And Uhura said, I can't contact them, or I lost the transmission. And he was like, well, get it back, and was exceptionally unpleasant to Uhura. And Uhura looks at him. I love Nichelle Nichols' look. It looks like, listen, dude, I can't get somebody to pick their phone back up. If they hang up, that's it. I can't force it on the other end. And it was a really great moment. Again, it wasn't a defiant moment, It was a listen, this is what's going on. I'm doing my job. You need to calm the fuck down. But I am obviously your junior, so I can't say it in those words. So I'm going to speak very calmly, slowly, and with direct eye contact. So 1, I'm serious, and 2, really what I said was the truth. And so, really great episode, really great scene in the episode. Again, the thing with the eyelids, I would have liked to have had another workaround for that, like Bones figures something out. Like Bones figured out that there was some type of, hereditary treatment that would have worked with the Vulcans as opposed to humans. It seems sort of like a MacGuffin, like, oh, we've got extra eyelids. Don't worry about it. Which it certainly doesn't ruin the episode at all for me or, detract from it at all for me. But I just think, like, okay. I thought it was powerful as hell when he goes, and I am quite blind. I mean, oh my God. Again, this was an episode that strength was the story. We had great performances. We had a really cool setting, with the planet and obviously with the Enterprise. But what sells this is a great, well-constructed, well-storyboarded story. And you know what? I wonder, I'm going to look on the production notes for this one, because if this was truly the last episode, and I did catch this and I didn't add it to the Q&A, but they only had 26 ordered episodes for the season 1. And at one point they ordered an additional 3. They wanted 3 more episodes. And that gifted us with 3 of the best episodes. Well, 2 of the best. Alternative factors coming up. We had City on the Edge of Forever and Operation Annihilate come out of that 3-issue order or 3-episode order, which really great stuff. But anywho, being storyboarded out like that, that is a huge strength for the show. And if this was the last episode that was filmed and produced, I'm wondering if that lack of pressure of having to immediately go into another episode's production enabled them to really kind of nail a couple things, maybe take a couple extra takes, a little longer on the editing, musical selection, things like that, because this episode seemed, not that the others don't, but this episode and City on the Edge of Forever seem to be way more produced, way more kind of polished than a lot of the other ones were. And I'm wondering if it's because they kind of had a little breathing room with these last 3 episodes. Regardless, great stuff. What an awesome way to end the season with a really strong offering. And you know what? I'll say this, and Jerry Seinfeld said this one time, and I thought it was very, very, I've mentioned this before. Jerry Seinfeld said that they would take the summer or the off season, and they would write like the first half of the episodes for the next season. And they'd have them all done, and they were polished, and they were great. And then the second half of the season, they would write while they were making the first half of the season. And he always said he felt that the second half, while it had quality episodes here and there, as a whole would lack the same quality because of the lack of polish and time that the first half of the season had. So in many ways, when I go into a season, I always think, other than like a defined story narrative finale, like a serialized finale, with a cliffhanger and things like that, you're probably going to get weaker episodes that I guess the more exhausted people get towards the end. Boy, that couldn't be farther from the truth here. City on the Edge of Forever and Operation Annihilate to end season 1 on 2 humdinger of an, again, City on the Edge of Forever is in rarefied air. It's absolutely incredible. It lives up to all the hype in my book. It is just fantastic storytelling. And while Operation Annihilate doesn't reach that level of, few seldom do. I mean, I think that the only thing that's close to City on the Edge of Forever is probably Balance of Terror, which is another unreal episode. Very different, but an unreal episode. But that's not to say that Operation Annihilate isn't a very good episode. I would certainly put it in the top 25% of season 1. Again, that's my opinion, but I really dug it. I thought it just checked a lot of the boxes that I love about Star Trek, where it's, a problem. They've never experienced it before. There's not necessarily any like space battles or anything like that, but it requires everybody to do their best, to become their best, to figure these things out. Mistakes were made. I mean, it was like on the fly science. It was really, really cool though. Heroic sacrifice by Spock. A lot of great themes, a lot of great tropes with incredible weight with the death of Sam Kirk and then Peter Kirk getting ready to, follow his father and mother. I loved it. It was a really great ending. And that segues into this. I want to thank all of you for, whether this is the first episode that you've joined with me during these reactions or you've watched them all. I appreciate the hell out of all of you so very much. This community has been absolutely amazing. It has made watching the original series. I mean, if I was watching the original series in a vacuum, I'm sure I'd enjoy it. I mean, because it was just so good. But watching it with all of you and being supported by all of you and having like what I'm learning augmented by the information that you all provide, non-spoilery, which is even incredible that, there's just kind of this, don't spoil it, don't spoil it, but here's some additional insight that will help you with this episode. Great stuff, my friends. And I mean, it's it's heartwarming. I get a little choked up, but it's heartwarming just to, whenever I do one of these, I think to myself, I'm hanging out with my friends. I always say this over on Patreon, that it could be a very lonely experience to do one of these things and just sit here and talk, and then when the cameras turn off, there's nobody around. I never feel alone. I never feel alone. In fact, I feel like I am surrounded by hundreds of my buddies, and when we're done, we all get to sit around and talk about it, which, you all know me, I'm a gabber, and I love to talk about it with you all. And the inclusion that I've felt from this community, it's otherworldly. No pun intended. But my friends, we have a lot more to learn about Operation Annihilate. I'm sure there is some backstage and behind the camera shenanigans that need to be explored, but I certainly can't figure it out. I don't have that type of galactic insight, but I do know somebody that does. Q? Greetings, mon capitaines, and welcome to another installment of Q&A. Friends, this is where, after having watched and reacted to an original series episode, I like to go back and find some behind-the-scenes info, some trivia, things that if I had looked up before watching and reacting would have ruined the episode for me. But now, with the help of Q and 5 categories in which to rein myself in instead of not getting into the weeds, I can hopefully share a little bit of what I've uncovered and maybe progress your knowledge of Star Trek a little more like I've progressed my own. Friends, the 5 categories that we will be looking at: the first, who was our writer and who was our director? 2, guest stars. Did we have any and who were they? 3, of the core cast, who was present? That's usually the big 6 of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, Uhura, Scotty, and Sulu. That's of season 1 right now. And then, of course, we have number 4, which is our production notes. That's all the behind-the-scenes tidbits, all the things that went on behind the camera. And as I've mentioned before, the story behind the camera at Star Trek is usually just as intriguing and just as engaging as the story in front of the cameras. And friends, last but certainly not least, our number 5 category: what was the most memorable quote from this episode? Friends, let's get into it. All right, everybody, for our first category, writer and director. Who was our writer and who was our director? Our writer for this episode was Stephen W. Karabatos. Now, Stephen was also the story editor for, it was originally hired to be the story editor for the original series, and in fact, lost his job to DC Fontana. So a little bit more about this when we get down into production notes, but this is his one and only contribution to the scripts and the series that make up Star Trek, at least for season 1. And friends, who was our director? First-time director, Herschel Doherty. Herschel Doherty came forward and I think did a very good job with this, the final episode of season 1. And it was an interesting shoot that we'll talk more about it, but it had a lot of darkness, a lot of very kind of heavy themes, and it was done really well. Some interesting new shots were used. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everybody's kind of contribution into this one, but let's get further into our discussion to see who our guest stars were and who our core cast was. Now for our second group, guest stars. We had guest stars in this one, but nobody of any real note. The only one that I've included in here is Joan Swift as Kirk's sister-in-law. I thought she did a very, very good job of kind of portraying the end of her life, that pain that she had been going through. It was for me, very, very reminiscent of Van Gelder from Dagger of the Mind, a performance that I think about all the time as one of the very best that we've seen from our guest stars. But a lot was asked from Joan Swift here, as she was meant to have that same problem. Anything that she would say, anything that she would explain was pain and just tore her apart, to the point where, it wasn't necessarily, trying to communicate, but death came for her because of this exposure to these cells and stuff. And I thought she did a really, really good job capturing the terminal nature. What was at stake? She gave us what was at stake. And now, friends, for our category number 3, our core cast. Who was here? Good news. All hands present and accounted for our season finale. Plus, we saw the return of Christine Chapel, as Nurse Chapel was able to appear in this episode. And from my explorations already into season 2, we get to see Christine a little bit more. So we'll have some additions made to our core cast for season 2. And now, for everybody's favorite, number 4, production notes. What went on behind the scenes? Well, spoiler alert, everybody. This one went off pretty smoothly, if you can believe it. I think after having read through These Are the Voyages, Volume 1, my last entry for that big old book, there wasn't, this episode, Operation Annihilate, was actually able to breathe a little bit. Didn't have the same type of time constraints. It was the last one of the last elements that they had filmed and everything for the season, and it was part of the 3 that had been ordered in addition to the regular series order, in that we had, obviously, City on the Edge of Forever and Operation Annihilate. Our other one that we won't mention is the alternative factor, which it is what it is. But this one, they had a little bit more time to breathe and a little bit more time to kind of sit into the episode. So there wasn't that same type of drama behind the scenes. But let's find out what was there. Now, I thought immediately whenever we saw these exterior shots, I thought, is this... I thought, is it a museum? It looked kind of like the Getty, certain elements of the campus. In fact, the outdoor scenes were shot at the headquarters of the TRW Space and Defense Park in Redondo Beach, California. It's currently the site of Northrop Grumman. If anybody is out in the area, it's the same kind of area or the same footpad of everything. The establishing shot of Kirk's brother's lab, however, was a building on the campus of UCLA, which, again, we speculated this kind of looks like a college campus or a museum campus, and it was. It was the campus of UCLA, and the entrance of the building was the cafeteria. So I thought that was interesting. But that was the cafeteria at TRW, which is now Northrop Grumman. But they used those 2 campuses to kind of get the idea of this whole institute and this whole kind of colony and this whole place, to give it more of an established feel as opposed to some of like the prefab structures that maybe existed or some of like the more ancient kind of, Western looking sets that they had used before. This one they wanted to make look a little bit more modern. And so they employed the use of both the Space and Defense Park and UCLA. Now, here's another one for our second production note that I thought was pretty interesting. The body of Sam Kirk was played by William Shatner. Shatner, obviously wearing different clothing, wearing a false mustache and a different hairstyle, took the place of his fictional brother and was there on the floor for whenever we had our initial kind of capture shot. I thought that was really interesting and kind of a testament to how far they were willing to go because, it wasn't like Sam was his twin and needed to look exactly like him or anything like that, but they were able to really make it work, and really kind of commit to the idea that this was in fact, James T's brother. Now, here's an interesting thing. I'll throw up a little picture right here so you can see the still of it at least, but an entire scene was filmed and then cut from the episode, and it featured dialogue between Kirk and his nephew, Peter. Now, the dialogue concerned Peter's returning to the planet's surface and living with his father's partner, who was his partner in this project they were doing. There's not much. I haven't been able to. I actually tried to look for the scene to see if it maybe had somehow been like reproduced and put on YouTube or something. I haven't been able to find it. If you do find it, I would love to see it because a lot of these scenes are lost to time. They were just on the cutting room floor. They never made it to any other medium, and we only have stills that were kind of taken during production to represent that they actually existed. This is one I would honestly like to see because I'm sure it was cut for a reason. I don't know if that reason was time or not, but I think it would show, at the very least, a connection with Kirk and his family, because we haven't seen that, and we didn't get to see that in this episode. I think that would have been interesting to at least observe. If the scene was weak, then I understand cutting it, but that information about Kirk's approach to family, I think that needs to be explored. Now, I mentioned it before, and this is our fourth note in production. I mentioned it that Stephen Karabatos wrote this episode. Well, strangely enough, as he started off as the story editor for Star Trek, part of his contract was, in addition to his story editing duties, he had to provide one original script for the season. Now, it was, again, I couldn't find exactly when Karabatos was told that his role was gone, or his participation in being the story editor was ceasing as he was fired. But here's the flex that I don't really understand. He was let go and was no longer a part of the production, and was contacted to make sure that he wrote his script to fulfill his contract. To me, that speaks of, and you don't need that awkwardness unless you're desperate. And I think what ended up happening was there was just so much going on behind the scenes that they thought, we need another script, we need to get something going. Make Steven write his, even though that's a weird move. You know, you fired him and then you're going to make him contribute. I think that if he had probably fought that and said, no, they released me from my contract, I don't have to do anything for it, he probably could have gotten it through. But there at least was enough goodwill between the two camps, in Karabatos' camp and the production camp, that they were able to work together. And work together they did, because this story, I mean, how else to put it? This story was not Karabatos' story. This was actually provided, the premise of this story was provided to him by Gene Roddenberry, who the original title was Operation Destroy. And it was a much weightier episode in that Kirk's family did not appear, but Kirk was going to be forced to make the decision to either kill the entire planet to prevent the spread, or have the thing spread. So it was a much more dire kind of ending to all of this. Of course, with rewrites later, we got a lot more weight. But one of the main things that people complained about for this episode was that additional weight that was added. They said there's a lot of, I agree with this 100%. There was a lot of heavy themes in this. You had Kirk suffering from the death of his brother, the death of his sister-in-law, the potential death of his nephew. You had Spock becoming blind. You had Spock becoming infected. You had an entire population of a planet that was either going to be killed or blinded, you know, or a combination of both. There's just a lot of weight that was put into this. And I think because there were so many decisions and so many moments of extreme death of Sam Kirk, death of the sister-in-law, blindness of, you know, Spock, all those were so weighty that it almost detracted from the entire story for me a little bit. That it was just, there was so much going on that the stakes really couldn't be elevated higher, but they kept trying to, and they kept trying to like punch above that emotional glass ceiling of what the episode was capable of. And I think that it was too much. You know, it was almost like we need to have half as many problems here. So it kind of makes me think that maybe Roddenberry's original idea not to have Sam Kirk involved might have worked and kind of reduced that feeling. Either way, I enjoyed the episode, but either way, I think that there was a lot of heavy themes in this one that was probably brought about because of the need for these rewrites. But I should say this, these rewrites were not nearly as frenetic or rushed as some of the other ones that we had experienced, which gave us a more polished product at the end. And number 5 for our production notes, this one's a pretty interesting one, kind of goes hand in hand with City on the Edge of Forever. At the end of City on the Edge of Forever, when Kirk says, let's get the hell out of here, it's the first time hell has been used in broadcast television for its actual purpose, and not in relation to a place, you know, go to hell, or that it wasn't even used either. But there, you know, there may have been certain, I think there was one where somebody said something was hellish, and that was there was never a hell used before. In this one, this episode is one of 3 where the word damn is used, with McCoy cursing and saying this damnable logic. Now, again, it's not the straight damn, but at the time, that was a very, very powerful, very, very kind of, you know, I don't want to say blue because it's not, but it was unheard of at the time. And so this is one of 3 times where damn is used. And last but certainly not least, I thought, because we have had so many kind of discussions about costumes, whether throughout season 1, where we had, you know, the costuming of Ricardo Montalban and Joan Collins, I thought that I would kind of sum up all those things with one final mention of our season 1 costuming. And in this one, unique to this episode, Uhura wears a black belt on the bridge. Now, we have seen this black belt before, but only when she goes on planet. We saw it on City of the Edge of Forever. Whenever she beamed down to where the time portal was, she had the belt on. And again, I think that is very interesting because they are able to kind of capture a look for Uhura that may or may not be something that they use. I thought I saw them say that in the future, anytime she goes on planet, the black belt is on, basically to carry her equipment, phaser and communicator and things like that. But again, interesting ways. The evolving uniforms of Star Trek, the original series, are really, really interesting. It's a subject unto itself. And last, friends, but certainly not least, the memorable quote from this episode. And I think that this is the best one to use because, again, this is an exchange between Bones and Kirk, but the subject is Spock. And this is after Spock was infected. Bones says to Kirk, "Jim, that man is sick, and don't give me any damnable logic about him being the only man for the job." And Kirk responds, "I don't have to, Bones. We both know he is." I don't think anything sums up what our journey between those three has been in season 1 than that. Bones, who absolutely picks on Spock any chance he gets, will defend him to the death when faced with anything that might put him at risk. Bones has your back even if he doesn't have your front, if that makes sense. And Kirk will always do what needs to be done, even if it's a sacrifice, even if it's his friends, because the ship comes first. And he knows and trusts the strength of both Bones and Spock. But he has to make the decision. And that weight will always be on his shoulders. And I don't think that relationship is summed up any better than in this exchange, which is kind of a direct relation to how each of them feel about one another. Very similar to City on the Edge of Forever. "Do you know what you just did?" And Spock says, "He knows, Dr. McCoy. He knows." There's a love between those three that is only growing and only strengthening, and I am here for every step of it, my friends. And the last thing I will say is this: though I am dressed as Q, I come before you as a humble reactor who has been watching this incredible first season with all of you. Whether you are watching it for the first time or you are experiencing it again with me, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for the comments, the support, the wonderful information, the links. Everybody's coming forward and saying, "Hey, by the way, here's a couple details that might flesh out everything for you a little bit more," and it's non-spoilery, and I love it. Here's a link to an interview. Oh my God, I love seeing stuff like that. And the fact that everybody takes so much time to write these really, big comments with a lot of information in them. I read each and every one. I want you all to know that I never cruise past the comment section. When I see something come in and I have a chance to break away from work, I read each and every one and enjoy each and every one. So from the bottom of my heart, after this, our first season, and now concluded and in the books, I appreciate and love you all, and I cannot wait for season 2. Continue the journey with me, my friends, and we will have some fun exploring the stars. But that's all for this session of Q&A. Until we meet again in season 2, behave.